the talk is from JavaScript to React. So let's go deeper in why this title. Maybe you know what is happening here. So let's start with a story so you can know why. Once upon a time, there was a developer in 2020 in a pandemic mode like today that he want to learn JavaScript, and he said, well, I've been with HTML, CSS, and let's start with programming and let's learn about how the data, the string, boolean numbers, and then console and now this text can be in the script, and now we feel like we are a hacker because there is a alert window as the line number 13. So now in the 2020 it's let's go to React or framework or any of these things. Maybe it's not your case, but many times this eager to build interfaces or projects, but as a production, we can arrive to this point and where everybody's talking about. So this is an area where we learn about language and very important things as accessibility. But there's also a world where the job you need to go to these tools, frameworks, libraries. So that's why this is cool. I just I have this JDS, everything is working, and let's start. So let's continue with the information, and we realize that this is the way to uh, build a component. This is the practical part. So we didn't read that this is that React do it in a declarative way, not imperative way, but we are using this, and everything is fine. Step number 2, let's do it more dynamic. Let's updating this state. Okay, this is working. However, I think that from hello world to this point, you create a component, you renderize it, and now it's updated. And this component is declarative, not imperative. And now there is more knowledge and you are obtaining more things that what you are doing in an empiric way and the other things that you are understanding. And maybe in this way is why this talk start, because a lot of times when we think we are a very experimented developers, we say, learn the language and then the framework. It's very easy to say, but very hard to do it. And to understand this empathy in this 2020 when everything is orienting to build things, and not to reinforce your foundations. Be honest, this is not popular. If I do a video of JavaScript, 10% will watch, and with React 100. So let's talk about once upon a time a developer, not in 2020 but 2010, learning JavaScript is the same story, but with jQuery. If you want to reveal us your how you started, well, I'll do it. In 2010, when I was learning JavaScript, and the industry tell me jQuery. I didn't know where one started and the ended the other. So there were a lot of questions and few answers. So 2010 jQuery, 2020 React, other one, and 2030, what's next? Something will be there. So I will give you this question. The blame is about the developers that we are optimizing this, maybe. Maybe we as developers or creators, we have this commitment, or maybe it's part of the industry maybe you're in your job, they say you need to know all these languages or React or whatever, and somebody say no, it's impossible, it's not like a starting point, but realities are different. So at the end of the day, those offers exist, and that's why we have all these doubts. But who is to blame? I don't know, have an idea. So for the moment, I don't have the answer. Okay, so we need to be okay, but you can debate this on the chat. Okay, let's start this debate explaining this language from the perspective of React. Let's start with this, how React function or works. So we will understand of this as something that is very practical, something that you want to learn. So learning language of React or non-React, and how language implement React, because yes, we are all agree about this. So from this tutorial, we can see of this hello world, we find out two important things, React and React DOM. Oh my God, wait a minute. So in this tutorial, we find out these two important things, React and React DOM. And inside React, we have this component class and using render method. And in React DOM, there is a way of giving shape to the browser with this component. So with these four concepts, we can start to advance or explain. We have these four things. Let's continue. So, for example, this will be a user component as this user.js. So the structure of this user.js is more or less like this in JavaScript, like this. And maybe you can tell me this is React.js oriented to classes, but at the same time, it's JavaScript. It's nothing outside of what we know. There's no component and the rest of the things that maybe you will know already. But this talk is about to know all these little things, how things of JavaScript you can learn. So once we have this component, and of course we already know because we already see the tutorial, and now we can have this component to understand how the properties or the body of the component or something like this, where we have a component and it's a class. And in a superficial way, we have two things to learn, classes and models. And if we talk about classes, is objects and a constructor, why that method is special is there. It cannot be just another constructor, or we can start talk about instances and also properties, because we are using the context of we are creating this object. And also because we are talking about language, we can see these default params. And this component is what React is giving to you, is exporting. So we can talk about models exports. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that we can explain so it can interest you in a practical way. Let's go back of the user component where I have more form. We have this React as a vanilla. So I'm not doing anything. I'm not using the exact code, but it will work. Let's just have faith on me. So user component will see like that, and we can import it. And now we can talk about models, but not exported, but imported, and how we can do it. Maybe part of the model, X component. and then the path, why you need .js, and in the other one is not like that. So explain a little bit more. In this user.js component, you are watching or seeing 6 lines and to the 17. I'm not using JS, but template literals. It's a string that it can have like this interpolation, dynamics inside, other functions. And at the end of the day, many things that we do in JavaScript to manipulate information or complex information can be more simple. Then we can use in the line 5 the structuring assignment. And more specific topic as in heritage, because line number 3, we are doing that. We are extending user D component, and all can be implemented in the user. And also polyform. This polyform saying is we can implement methods in different ways and in different instances that we are creating. So render is inside the components, because maybe it's a user or a card as another component. So with this, we can start another topic. Is programmation, language, architecture, good practices to know where the thing starts and ends. And everything is JavaScript. Perfect. Then, where is the base? If I have this component class, how these two can be inside the browser? Well, in general way, you will have something like index.js as this example, and I will import another part and as a user component, and we know that is in the file name component. And now we have two more things. First, selectors that we have in line number 4, and basically is what you learn in CSS. Functions, because at the end renders is a function with some parameters and then do something. And then instances, because in line 6 I'm using this instance. Remember that this is a very easy JavaScript, so in theory this must be working in your browser. And in this new instance is new properties, an object that has the name and the avatar of the user, and a second parameter of render React DOM, where I'm going to render this component. And this is part of the library. Library gave us an API. Render must have these two parameters, and then you will do your thing. And under this sentence, then my component must be updated and have some structure so it can be seen in the browser, and with the properties, dynamic things, etc. We can continue talking about this topic, and now React DOM. In order to achieve the objective to have this component in the screen, it can be possible. So it's very simple. This is render, receive element, container, HTML, and this is equal to element.render. And with this works and works. And then, so we can talk about functions, methods, because render is a method of element, and also DOM manipulation. We can have HTML and other modalities to do this and adapt and choose one. So this will pass from this Hi world or Hola Mundo with basic things in languages, elements, very simple functions, log, alert, and you can see something very similar. This is the structure with React, but now inside vanilla. So in line number 3, we have is a model, so everything works. And in my .js is not inside of a component, so our ash will have life. And if you don't believe me, well, let's see. Maybe your next question, Leonidas. You are cheating because there's not a state and there is no GSX. It cannot be updated. There is not a life cycle. But well, this talk is about to go beyond and have some fun. So let's start creating an alternative for these two functions that basically is React is with us. And for GSX, we have create element. So if you see your document, in this hello message, there is a check where we can take out this JSX. And this other thing is a small function that comes from React, and the name is create element. And with this is a div, and then the properties, and then receive as a third parameter the content of that element. Maybe an hola, hello or hola. In this case is hola Taylor. And we have the same result. This syntax is a kind of Java in some way. So this is easier to re-implement and at the same time to teach, because remember that I want to teach you something that you want to learn, which is React. But before that, and because we have this second function inside of this model, let's do a refactor. I will have this file with React, and then we have react.js, react element.js, and an index.js. I'm not lying. This is the structure. This is a repository React structure. You will find many files more, but these are one of the more important. So this is an index, and we can export to functions. And this is React. We have our component, and React element is to create those elements that will replace our JS or our template. Let's continue. Let's go to user.js. So instead of template, we will change to create element with the same structure. This is more complex to read because it's not a HTML, it's just variables, but the structure is more understandable at the programming level, and we can teach this. So again, div, properties, user class, and then a special property that receive the React components, and the alignment is like that. Once we know this, we need to go to our create element like this, and we are going to do this implementation. It can be simple or sophisticated. Create element or react element.js, and here we receive the type of element, h1, h2, div, whatever you want, and then the content. So I need to do three things. First, I need to create an element with this type, and manipulation of DOM manipulation, and then content is very simple. It's just text. Once I have my element, I put content, and where the thing that is tricky is properties. It can be an event, an attribute, children. So one element inside the other. So here we are learning array methods, object methods. So in line number 11, set properties is what we are going to see in the next slide, so you can see how this will be implemented. So in set properties, you will see this. It's in the same file of React element, and we will have all these things. From line 2 to 6, we have the support of the event, 8, 11 of nested children, and from 13 to 15, no, just 14 is the normal attribute support. In the 15, no, let me see, 15, 13 attributes. And everything is okay, but in number 5 is set events, and 10, another function, render children, because again, I will start with more function and it can be more complex, but I will put there. Let's see the event part. So if you start with on, it can be a little bit more sophisticated. And I will say go to set event. We receive the parameters, and as simple as element event callback. And this is what we do when that event is released. Next case, the children support is line number 10, render children, value and element, and simply as that, we are going to call this React DOM inside React element, and you will have a lot of children all nested. I don't know, maybe you will as a base component and then children, a lot of children, and we will have in this if in line number 5, so and or line number 8. We will have just one render or a render iteration. And we will use the same render. And we're cool. And it works. Let's continue with our state and life cycle. No, there's no hooks. We are just working with classes, more didactics. To show you how this works, all this React plus React like a more explained React. But no, there will not be hooks. Let's go back to our component and then find out solution user.js. And now our component is demanding more things. We are seeing in this function that set state is not implemented in this user class, but in another class. We will see it how to do it. So in theory is when one put a new state, maybe an object, my component will reload and then render again. So what we are doing in this example, in line number 18, we have this on click. This will be like an event. And when we execute this on click, we will have handle click in line number 8, receive the event. And I'm calling in line number 9 is set state as the initial state from line 5 to 7. That start with a property from the other, number 10. For example, number of years that Ash has. And we can implement everything of this. Let's see our React.js. Remember that our component was very basic, very simple. Now we can talk about other concepts. For example, abstraction and this encapsulating, because they are private elements. When you have this hash inside this hashtag of in some field, are these private fields of JavaScript, so not other class can access directly. You can call set state is implemented in this class. You can call this set state and it will work. But talking about encapsulating, you call set state and you know what set state is going to do, but not how. And this is the way of encapsulate. And then we have a private state. And we already updated everything, and we can start our component with elements and state. Let's go to the life cycle. User.js. Okay, if everything is upgraded, I want to receive signals if somebody affect my component, maybe renderize it or not renderize it or update it or whatever, to have this log. So this works because then I need to do another thing, as you can see in this example. And then we have a lot of components or things in the life cycle. This is a method that is called automatically when this component is visible in the browser. And it's simple when this component will start. It's not in the browser, but the intention is there, and that's why it will mount. When I do a set state and my component will be updated, then I can put it there. And there are other ways of the life cycle, but this is just an example. But let's see again what is happening. And there you have the methods. They're doing nothing, but there are some changes. Instead of render in a direct way, now is in the line 21 that is called build. The name is like that. Is I need to build my component and I can call will mount. So this method will call before. So in the render is kind of hide in this area. And when everything this is going to be updated in line number 7 and number 6, and then line number 9, we are calling component did update. But we need more things. Where can I will implement did mount? And we need to do a small refactor to support all these things. A state as life cycle, but inside React DOM. In this way, works for me. First of all, React DOM is not as simple as HTML, but in line number 11, we have an append. One element will have more elements. In line number 2, I see if my element is a string or is an HTML. I just add it. Why? Because in another way, I will have this element. In render, I have line number 5. And whatever I need, I replace that child or I add it. This function, well, I think that if it's look like Ash sees like that. And as a life cycle, if I change, for example, to listen or to see if it's dark or light, I can change from one to the other. Okay, this is so beautiful. And this is how I feel when my React works. And maybe now you are asking yourself, why this talk is from React to JavaScript and not the other way around. As many things are questions without answers. Thank you very much. If you want to know more of this, you can go to my YouTube channel. Very interesting your talk. A lot of people were waiting for this, so before this talk, they can use this. Okay, there's another question up to now. Yes, there's one. To develop React.js in JavaScript, it happens the same with Vue or another frameworks? This is my opinion, but it's not necessarily a reality. It's just a perspective. I think yes. When I learned React 2013 or 14, there were a lot of things, new things in language, pet operators, and everything that was new. And honest, I didn't know 100%. I just knew that it was there. But I could differentiate one to the other. But with React, it was very implemented. So that was cool. And I always have that doubt, React or not React. So thanks to the way that React implements the language, very direct, and is something more fancy, this helps that you are curious to know more about that specific function. And then you know, okay, it's an operator. So personally, yes, it helped me. What do you think? To learn class component or functions? Currently, functions with hooks. But this was only to teach you about programming. So from the insights. So now that you have two contexts, you can apply it in the functions. What was the way